The evidence for this sweeping Russian interference allegation was never there, but yet a very credulous media ran with it and never bothered to ask the basic question: what is the evidence? If you read the intelligence reports closely, the officials that lodged these allegations of Russian hacking did not actually make definitive conclusions about the hacking. They used very tepid and qualified language, which I've written about extensively. And this is partly because they did not analyze the DNC servers themselves. Instead, they relied on yet another Clinton campaign contractor, a company called CrowdStrike, which was the first to accuse Russia of hacking the DNC. So just as the Clinton campaign is paying Christopher Steele to come up with fantasies about a Trump-Russia conspiracy, they're also paying a company called CrowdStrike to lodge the allegation of Russian hacking of the DNC. This puts two Hillary Clinton contractors squarely behind the underlying allegations behind the Russiagate affair. Now, the media ignored facts like this, and they also ignored revelations that undermine the hacking narrative, including the president of CrowdStrike, Sean Henry, who in congressional testimony that only came out years later, admitted that his company, quote, did not have concrete evidence, unquote, of Russian hacking. The second aspect of this supposed Russian interference operation was that a government-linked troll farm orchestrated a sophisticated and far-reaching social media campaign that denigrated Hillary Clinton and promoted Trump. There were several problems with this allegation. Yes, the troll farm, which is called the Internet Research Agency, it did have close ties to the Kremlin. But if you look at the actual content of the social media posts that they put out, some inconvenient facts emerge. First of all, according to the final report from Special Counsel Robert Mueller, this troll farm, the Internet Research Agency, spent about $100,000 on Facebook ads between 2015 and 2017. Of that, just $46,000 was spent on Russian-linked Facebook ads. That amounts to about 0.05% of the $81 million spent on Facebook ads by the Clinton and Trump campaigns combined, and a fraction of the billions of dollars spent every year on presidential campaigns. Then there's the fact that the supposed social media election interference barely concerned the election. According to Mueller, Twitter looked at all the accounts and the posts put out by this Russian troll farm, and just 8.4% were election related. This tracks with a report commissioned by the US Senate, which found that explicitly political content in these social media posts was a small percentage of the content put out by the Internet Research Agency. Most of these memes and social media posts were dumb cartoons of like Yosemite Sam complaining about gun control and things like that, nothing to do with the actual election. So the evidence for this sweeping Russian interference allegation was never there, but yet a very credulous media ran with it and never bothered to ask the basic question: what is the evidence? And the allegation took off because it served the convergence of, I would argue, elite interests. For the Clinton campaign, especially after they lost to Trump, blaming Russia and not themselves for their defeat to a reality TV show host, best known for The Apprentice, was a convenient way of avoiding responsibility, of reflecting on their own neoliberal legacy, which Trump successfully exploited in his campaign to pose as a working class champion. He also exploited the interventionist legacy of the Clinton campaign, Hillary Clinton, a noted war hawk, and Trump said he was going to end the endless wars. So blaming Russia rather than themselves was a great way for Democratic Party elites to avoid taking responsibility for the dysfunctions that they were a part of, which Trump exploited. For media outlets, this also was a great foil because they had relentlessly promoted Trump and used him because they saw that he was great for ratings. One television executive in the US even said about Trump's campaign, "It may not be good for America, but it's damn good for CBS. The money's rolling in and this is fun. It's a terrible thing to say, but bring it on, Donald. Keep going." So rather than take responsibility themselves for also giving rise to Trump, it was great for the US media to blame Russia and these social media posts and emails that brainwashed millions of people into voting for Trump. Now, also, if you're in the national security state and Trump is successfully reaching voters by saying, "I'm going to stop the wars. I want better relations with Russia," it's a great way to stigmatize the appeal of Trump's rhetoric. And I stress it was just rhetoric because I think Trump is a great salesman. I don't think he actually intended to be a president of peace, but he sold it to the public and it had the appeal. So if you're in the national security state and your agenda is to fuel wars and conflict abroad, framing someone as a Russian asset is a great way to stigmatize the anti-interventionist rhetoric that Trump was espousing. So you had a convergence of elite interests behind Russiagate, which made it very, very difficult for the facts to emerge. And what you had is what I call an elite protection racket. Sectors of the elite, from the Democratic Party to the national security state to the corporate media, all had a benefit in blaming Russia rather than themselves. The consequences of this were many. This engulfed Trump's first term. This was all anyone could talk about. From the point of view of people who actually wanted to oppose Trump on his policies, as I argued at the time, this was a disaster, because if you're Trump, what bigger gift could you ask for than having your opposition channel all of their resistance into a conspiracy theory that you're secretly controlled by Vladimir Putin, rather than focusing on your actual policies, which included cutting taxes for the ultra wealthy, cutting environmental regulations. And rather than focusing on those policies, Democrats were instead funneled into a conspiracy theory that predictably, like most conspiracy theories, go down a rabbit hole into nowhere. But the worst consequence of all this was geopolitical, I would argue, because Russiagate created a really perverse incentive system for everybody involved. For Trump to disprove allegations that he was a secret Russian asset, Trump was incentivized to abandon his campaign calls for better relations with Russia and instead advance a neoconservative, hawkish agenda. And he happened to appoint many people around him who were neoconservatives who loved the opportunity. In fact, this is exactly what John Bolton, who was Trump's national security advisor, called Russiagate. He called it a not-to-be-missed opportunity. And he explained his reasoning as follows. The Russia investigation, Bolton wrote, offered Trump a not-to-be-missed opportunity to confront the broader growing danger of Russian subversion. And instead of mere solemn pronouncements condemning Russia, Bolton urged, there should be action. And this is what he said, quote, let Putin instead hear the rumble of artillery and NATO tank tracks conducting more joint field exercises with Ukraine's military. That and much more will get his attention. A rare moment in politics, unexpected events produce opportunities which must be seized before they disappear. So John Bolton, a career war hawk, responsible for things like the Iraq War, for abandoning the anti-ballistic missile treaty with Russia when he was serving in the Bush administration, he saw a rare opportunity here to advance his own neoconservative agenda, where even liberals were now blaming Russia for the rise of Trump. And Bolton took advantage of that opportunity. Under Trump's watch, Bolton advised him to withdraw from the INF Treaty, which is a major arms control pact negotiated between Reagan and Gorbachev that had severely limited the weapons pointed at the US and Russia between each other. And Bolton got Trump to withdraw from that. So Trump was incentivized to go along with this because he was motivated to show people he wasn't a Russian asset. And concurrently, Democrats were incentivized to ignore Trump doing dangerous things like that because they were so all in on this conspiracy theory that he secretly was controlled by Vladimir Putin. So this was a dangerous convergence of delusions on all sides. And everyone was incentivized to encourage militarism.
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below.
With a free trial, you can enjoy the full talk and thousands more.
Thank you for being part of the conversation.